Okay, so let's look at the first of the two topics we didn't cover in class this week, which was the 24-hour pediatric dosing. So a good example of medications that are going to be dosed over 24 hours are going to be your antibiotics, because oftentimes you're going to be giving them every 4, 6, 8, or 12 hours. And then a safe 24-hour dose is one that does not exceed the maximum daily dose or the adult daily dose. So in this first example, we're caring for an infant who is septic and they weigh 8 pounds and they have an order for ampicillin. And the recommended range for the ampicillin is 200 to 400 milligrams per kilogram per day when dosed every 4 to 6 hours. So we're going to figure out the minimum safe dose, the maximum safe dose, how many milligrams if they would dose every 4 hours, and how many milligrams they'd get if they were dosed every 6 hours. So starting off with the minimum dose, we're going to start with our weight first. And our weight isn't in kilograms, so we need to add in our conversion column to get it to kilograms. And then we're going to start with our lowest number for our minimum. So our pounds cancel out, our kilograms cancel out, then we can multiply across the top and the bottom. So we end up getting a minimum daily dose of 3,545.5 milligrams per day. And remember, that's the minimum amount that this patient can safely receive of this ampicillin. Now for our maximum, we're going to look at our biggest number. So same setup, we're just going to change what number we use in this third column. And then we end up with a maximum dose of 7,090.9 milligrams per day. So now we want to look at how many milligrams they're going to get when they're dosed every 4 hours. So starting with our minimum, so we're giving them 3,545.5 milligrams in one day. And then in that one day, there's 24 hours. And every 4 hours, they're going to get one dose. So now your days cancel out and your hours cancel out, and you're left with milligrams over dose, which is what we need. So we can multiply across the top and the bottom. So our minimum amount of medication we're going to give per dose, if we dosed every 4 hours, is going to be our 590.9 milligrams. And then for the maximum, we're going to do the exact same setup, but we're just going to change our number that we use on top in this first column here. And then we end up with a maximum amount of 1,181.8 milligrams given per dose. And then for our next one, if we're dosed every 6 hours, it's going to be the exact same setup. We're just going to add the number of hours in our last column. So here, instead of 4 hours, we're going to put 6 hours. We can multiply across the top and bottom. So if we dose every 6 hours, we're going to end up giving a minimum of 886.4 milligrams per dose. And same thing for the maximum here. Same setup, just going to change our number in our third column. And then we end up with a maximum amount of 1,772.7 milligrams per dose if we give the maximum amount of medication every 6 hours. So looking for this next example, we're caring for a child who weighs 35 pounds and they've been diagnosed with otitis media, so they're getting amoxicillin. The recommended range is 25 to 50 milligrams per kilogram per day. And then that can be given either BID or TID. And then we also need to know that our adult dose is 250 to 500 milligrams per dose given BID. So first we're going to figure out our minimum safe dose. Goes first. Our weight isn't in kilograms, so we need to add in our conversion column. So our minimum safe dose is going to be 397.7 milligrams a day. looking at our max, it's going to be set up the same way. We're just going to change our number in our top third column. Everything's crossed out, so now we can multiply across the top and bottom. So we end up with a maximum safe dose of 795.5 milligrams a day. So now looking at how much we're going to give if it's given BID. So remember that BID means twice a day. So that means that this person is going to get 2 doses a day. So now for our minimum, 397 milligrams in 1 day. And then in 1 day, we're going to give 2 doses. So we end up with 198.5 milligrams per dose for our minimum. Maximum's the same setup. We're just going to change our number here. And we end up with a maximum of 397.8 milligrams per dose. Now if we're going to give this medication TID, they're going to get 3 doses per day, because remember TID means 3 times a day. So same setup, we're just going to change our number in our bottom right. So this one we end up with 132.3 milligrams per dose for our minimum. And then our maximum, we end up with doing the same thing, just change our number in the bottom right. So we end up with 265.2 milligrams per dose. So now, is our dose greater than the adult dose? So, looking back, the adult dose is 250 to 500 milligrams per dose given BID. So looking at our BID, our kid can get 198.5 to 397.8, which does not exceed the adult dose.